When Matthew, the converted tax collector, recorded the words of Jesus nearing death on the cross, a very strange statement was made by Jesus. He said, my God, why have you forsaken me?" 1,000 years earlier, David began his 22nd psalm with the same words, my God, why have you forsaken me?" And though it may at first have seemed that David was sharing his own experiences, it becomes evident that this psalm shares the Messiah's experiences 1,000 years later. My intro video, The Portal to the Afterlife, on the MovetoReality homepage, starts from Psalm 22 and connects the dots in the Jewish Tanakh to show that it was the plan for the Messiah to be crucified and open the portal to the afterlife with God's blood. Here are some of the other descriptors of what the Messiah would eventually experience. "But I am a worm, less than human, scorned by men, despised by people. All who see me mock me. They curl their lips, they shake their heads. Dogs surround me, a pack of evil ones closes in on me. They divide my clothes among them and cast lots for my clothing." Later in Matthew's account of the death of Jesus, we find this recorded. "Then the governor's soldiers took Jesus in the praetorium and gathered the whole company around him. They stripped him and put a scarlet robe on him, and they twisted together a crown of thorns and set it on his head. They put a staff in his right hand and knelt before him and mocked him. 'Hail, King of the Jews,' they said. They spit on him and took the staff and struck him on the head again and again. After they had mocked him, they took off the robe and put his clothes on him. Then they led him away to crucify him. When they had crucified him, they divided up his clothes and cast lots. Those who passed by hurled insults at him, shaking their heads and saying, 'You who are going to destroy the temple and build it in 3 days, save yourself. Come down from the cross if you are the Son of God.'" Notice also the crown of thorns on him. This matches the sacrifice ram with Abraham in 2000 BC. Its head was caught in the thicket. Recall that the thieves crucified with Jesus had their legs broken in order that they would quickly die on the cross, but Jesus was already dead, likely as a result of the beating he took prior to being nailed to the cross. It was not necessary to break any of his bones. Moses made a huge deal of this regarding the sacrificed Passover lamb, and twice in David's 22nd Psalm he too mentions the Messiah's bones. "All my bones are disjointed. I take count of all my bones while they look on and gloat." This appears in the midst of the description of him on the cross, and just after this description in verse 14 through 17. "They open their mouths at me like tearing, roaring lions. My life ebbs away. All my bones are disjointed. My heart is like wax melting within me. My vigor dries up like a shard. My tongue sticks to the roof of my palate. You commit me to the dust of death. Dogs surround me. A pack of evil ones closes in on me. Like lions they maul my hands and feet." Again, this matches well Isaiah's description of the crucifixion of the Messiah that was yet to come. This last passage is a tough one to interpret, particularly since at the time it was written, the practice of crucifixion had not yet been devised. So how does a writer use poetic depiction to describe a crucifixion? Christian versions in the same Old Testament passage tend to interpret it as saying, "They pierced my hands and feet." That is a bit of license as they interpret the Hebrew after Jesus' crucifixion. Ironically, piercing the hands and feet is not an accurate description of how the Romans would apply the nails anyway. Nails through hands and feet would not hold up the victim. It would be a better description to describe driving nails through the wrist and ankle at the point where a rabid animal, like a lion, would tend to grab for leverage on a human. Combining the attempts from the Tanakh and from the Old Testament provides a better poetic match to what the Romans did in executing prisoners on a cross. The psalm concludes with these words, "God did not hide his face from him. When he cried out to him, he listened. The Lord's fame shall be proclaimed to the generation to come. They shall tell of his beneficence to people yet to be born, for he has acted."